Yin and Jungkook are currently enjoying breakfast prepared by the maid. What time will you be home from the office today? I don't have overtime today, so I'll be home from the office as usual. You rarely skip overtime. Usually you're always working extra hours. Because all the meeting requirements are done, and I've finished dealing with the clients, so there's no more piled up work. Why? Are you not happy I'm coming home early? No, it's not like that. I'm definitely happy. It's just unusual. That's all in my opinion. You're usually always busy. Are you going to the gym today? Yes, because I also want to check this week's reports. Yesterday, the staff mentioned that some fitness equipment was broken, so I want to check on that too. Alright then. They are a newlywed couple, married for 1 month through an arranged marriage by their parents. They didn't know each other before, but since the beginning, Yin had feelings for Jungkook. Undeniably, his charisma was very strong in her eyes. Their parents actually gave them a choice and didn't force them, but Yin, who was already interested in him, eventually agreed to the marriage. On the other hand, Jungkook, who had no relationship with any woman at all, didn't mind the arranged marriage by his parents. I'm ready. I'm leaving now. Yin immediately got up and took his bag, handing it to her husband as she escorted him to the porch. Okay, be careful on the road, alright? Yin quickly kissed his cheek, while Jungkook remained silent and unmoved. He didn't even respond to her words, just nodded briefly before heading straight to the car and driving off to the office. Such an icy man, as cold as a refrigerator, plus being anti-romantic. Am I even his wife? How could he be so indifferent? We've been married for a while now and he still hasn't even touched me. Or maybe he just doesn't have any desire for women at all. Is he only interested in work and money? Fortunately, he has a patient wife like me. If it were with other women, he'd probably be constantly fighting with his wife. Yin shook her head while watching her husband's car leaving the driveway. Shortly after, she went back inside the house and prepared to go to her gym. Yin has checked this week's reports and inspected the fitness equipment that needed repairing or maintenance. She has also finished her workout and is now seen sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying her leisure time. Suddenly, her phone rings. She sees the name of one of her best friends on the phone screen. Hi Mina? We're gathering this evening. Can you join us? I hope you can come, as it's rare for us to get together after finishing college. Alright, I'll meet you guys. Where? I'll send you the location shortly. Jungkook, who had been at home since earlier, is seen sitting on the sofa playing with his phone. He's actually waiting for Yin. It's already 9 p.m. but his wife still hasn't returned. Earlier this evening, Yin had informed him that she was hanging out with her friends, but why hasn't she come back yet? The doorbell rings, and Jungkook immediately gets up from the sofa. Shortly after, the maid comes, intending to open the door, but Jungkook stops her. Let me do it. Jungkook heads to the door and opens it. Instantly, his eyes widen at the sight of Yin, who is completely drunk, being supported by 2 of her friends. Sorry, Yin drank way too much. Even though we tried to stop her, she wouldn't listen to us. Yeah, and here are her car keys, but her car is still at the club. Alright, and thank you. Jungkook finally takes over her body from her friends. He lifts her body and carries her to their bedroom. With caution, Jungkook finally lowers her body. At this moment, Yin looks completely disheveled, heavily intoxicated. Jungkook immediately moves to her feet to remove her shoes and starts to cover her body with a blanket. But as he tries to leave, his wrist is suddenly grabbed by her. Jungkook looks at his wife. Her eyes are open but she looks very weak. Where are you going? Are you going to leave me alone? I'm just going out for a moment to get some water for you. I don't need water, because I've already had a lot to drink. I need you. What do you want from me? I want you to stay with me here. Of course, we always sleep together every night. You're never alone. But you never treat me like your wife. Who says that? I treat you as my wife. Yin shakes her head and then stands up, still heavily intoxicated. Jungkook immediately hugs her waist as she nearly falls several times. Now their bodies are pressed together, her hands resting on his shoulders, touching him softly. You're very drunk. Why are you standing up again? Do you really consider me as your wife? Of course. Have I ever considered you my maid? If that's the case, kiss me now. Jungkook is slightly surprised, his eyes sharply meeting hers, who is still looking at him hazily. Now his gaze falls to her lips. Honestly, he's been wanting to touch his wife too, but he's in a state like this. You're drunk. I don't want you to regret it when you're sober. I won't regret it. Yin starts to lean her face closer to his, tilting her head up and trying to reach his lips. Their lips now touch, and Yin starts to kiss him gently. Jungkook doesn't respond. He can smell the wine coming from his wife's mouth. It's true. You don't see me as your wife. You won't even return my kiss. Hearing his wife say that, finally, without hesitation, he kisses her lips softly. Yin responds, and they both get carried away in the intimate moment they've never experienced after their marriage. After a while of kissing, their lips finally parted. They both gaze at each other, their breaths heavy. I really don't want to do this while you're drunk. I'll only do it when we're both sober. Trust me, I'll remember it. The problem is, I'm not sure if you will remember. I have an idea. What idea? Without answering, she immediately kisses his neck and starts sucking on it hard. Yin, what are you planning? Yin still doesn't respond to his question, too busy with what she's doing. After she feels satisfied with the hickey, she finally lets go. She looks pleased with the result of what she just did to her husband's neck, her eyes sparkling, her lips forming a wide smile. I've given you a mark. This means you belong only to me. Only I can do this to you. If you say I'll forget tomorrow, then just show me this mark. Jungkook is now truly confused. What should he do? Should he obey his wife, even though she's currently intoxicated? But suddenly, she hugs Jungkook tightly. Jungkook, I'm very sleepy. Yin tightens her embrace, while he becomes even more perplexed. He feels Yin almost falling backward, so he holds her and gently positions her to lie down on the bed. Jungkook now sits at the edge of the bed, his gaze still on his now sleeping wife. He leans down to kiss both of her cheeks. Then, he prepares to sleep beside his wife. Yin slowly opened her eyes, feeling dazzled as they adjusted to the surrounding light. She glanced at the wall clock, indicating it was already 8 in the morning. Her head throbbed, and her stomach felt queasy as she began to massage her forehead gently. Glancing sideways, she didn't find her husband, indicating he had already left for work. Just as she thought that, the bedroom door opened, revealing Jungkook, who came in and looked at her, just waking up. Are you awake? Yin didn't answer, just nodded. Then she noticed her attire and realized she was still wearing yesterday's clothes instead of changing into sleepwear. You were drunk last night. Yin furrowed her brow. Hearing what he said, she tried to recall the events of last night. Eventually, she blushed, looking at him, who was now sitting on the edge of the bed beside her. Seeing Yin blushing, Jungkook finally smiled, gazing at his wife's flushed face. Looks like you remember last night. Yin remained silent, but she dared to glance at him, who was also now looking at her. Her gaze fell to his neck, where there were clearly visible hickeys from her actions last night towards her husband. I thought you had already left for work. You were so drunk and you forgot the time. Today is Sunday, of course. I'm not working. Once again, her face grew even redder, but suddenly, she winced in pain while holding her stomach. She felt a bit nauseous. What's wrong? Why is your stomach hurting? Jungkook immediately touched her stomach, gently pressing it and rubbing it. My stomach hurts, and I feel a bit nauseous. Do you feel like you're going to vomit? A bit, but it feels really uncomfortable. That's because you drank too much. Now get ready for breakfast to fill your stomach. If I eat now, usually I'll just vomit right away. So, what's usually your way to deal with your situation like this? Before, usually my mother or the maid would massage my stomach with essential oil. Want me to massage? No need for you. Please just call the maid to come here. Why does it have to be the maid, while I'm here? I don't want to bother you. I don't feel bothered. Jungkook immediately got up from his seat and walked towards the dressing table. He seemed to be searching for something. Where's the essential oil? In the drawer. Jungkook then opened the designated drawer and indeed found a small bottle of oil in it. He took it and walked back to sit beside Yin on the bed. Let me massage you. Jungkook's hands immediately moved aside the blanket from her body. She was still wearing a knee-length dress. Finally, he lifted the hem of the dress, covering the lower part of her body with the blanket, so now only her stomach was visible. Honestly, Yin felt embarrassed and awkward right now, even though she was in front of her husband. They had never had any significant physical contact before. Her heart was pounding heavily at the moment. Nevertheless, the pain and nausea in her stomach outweighed everything else. Meanwhile, Jungkook, on the other hand, was also trying to control his breath. After all, there was a beautiful sight before him. What's more, Yin was his own wife. Of course, the fact was even more tempting for him. Slowly, Jungkook began to massage her stomach with the essential oil, his hands moving gently as he massaged his wife's stomach. In reality, at this moment, both of them were trying to contain the sensations in their bodies. It was clear that her cheeks were now flushed, and Jungkook could see that. However, as time passed, they both tried to act normally. Yin winced occasionally. The pain in her stomach was truly intense, reaching up to her chest. Her hands reflexively pressed the area untouched by him, and she massaged her own upper abdomen with a bit of force. What's wrong? Does that area hurt? Yin didn't answer, just nodded, her face still showing signs of pain. His hands reflexively moved to massage her upper abdomen. After a few moments, her face appeared calmer. The pain in her upper abdomen had subsided. Do you have gastric disease? Yes, and sometimes it still flares up. If you have gastric disease, you shouldn't drink alcohol frequently because it can be very harmful to your stomach. Maybe that's why I feel nauseous right now. Don't you want to vomit it out? It might make you feel better. I often try to vomit it out, but nothing comes out of my stomach, maybe because my stomach is still empty since it's in the morning. That's why after this, you'll have breakfast, okay? So your stomach won't be empty for too long. Yin just nodded, her face still showing a bit of pain. Her hands once again reflexively touched her lower abdomen. Jungkook followed her hand to massage the area that felt painful. Does it hurt here too? Yin nodded again, still enduring the pain in her stomach. You should take the medication first, because gastric medicine is better taken on an empty stomach, right? Yin nodded, and Jungkook finally got up from the bed and immediately fetched the gastric medicine along with some water for Yin. A few moments later, Jungkook returned, and Yin promptly took the medication. After that, she lay back down. He resumed massaging her stomach, which still felt painful, but now it was starting to subside since she had taken the medication. Now, they both remained silent, neither of them speaking. Somehow, they found themselves staring at each other, though neither knew when it had started. The sensation in her stomach had changed. She no longer felt pain because she had taken the medication. However, as Jungkook continued to touch her, there was now a different sensation. She started to feel a tickling sensation in her stomach, like butterflies fluttering inside her. Her heart was now beating faster. Truth be told, she began to feel something moist on her body. She began to steal glances at him, who had been staring at her intensely since earlier, and from his husband's gaze, he could tell that they were feeling the same thing, both desiring each other. From where she gathered the courage, her hands reached up to embrace her husband's shoulders, pulling his neck closer until their faces were just 5 centimeters apart. They remained silent, but they could understand each other. Finally, Jungkook landed his kiss on her lips. His hands, which had been massaging her sore stomach, now began to descend further to her private area. And finally, that morning, for the first time, they engaged in activities as husband and wife. There was no longer any reason for Jungkook to hesitate. He no longer doubted his feelings or Yin's. 30 minutes later, now they were both embracing each other, their bodies covered in sweat. Their breaths were still heavy. They hugged each other while smiling. Now you've become my complete wife. Yeah. Are you happy? Yes, I'm happy. How do you feel about me now? Maybe, I'm starting to like you. Yes, I think I feel the same way. Okay, let's get up now. You need to have breakfast soon. Yin nodded, and finally, they released themselves from their embrace, getting out of bed to put on their clothes and prepare for breakfast.